Let's start with how to understand how disruptions happen. Let's start with technology cost curves. So back in 2014, I published a book called Clean Disruption of Energy and Transportation, and I published this exact cost curve for lithium-ion batteries out to 2030. You can't imagine how I was trolled for publishing that. $125 per kilowatt hour by 2022, it's never gonna happen. What are you smoking, right? And here we are. It's been almost exactly what I forecast. Cost curves are like gravity.
That was Tony Seba of RethinkX, who not only has a brain, but uses his brain to make predictions about things that will occur in the future that are extremely accurate and are laughed at by all of the so-called experts at the time. Despite Tony's predictions spanning now the better part of a decade and a half and being bang on point, consensus opinion hasn't changed. Tony gets it. However, just about every so-called expert making predictions and estimates about electric vehicle adoption, solar adoption, wind adoption, clean energy, autonomous vehicles is on screen now, collectively referred to as DERP. DERP's predictions won't age well. DERP is currently running just about every legacy automotive manufacturer, employed by just about every expert forecasting agency, works as a stock analyst covering the automotive industry, and is a talking head in the mainstream finance media. DERP will be very embarrassed soon. The real title of this video is Don't Be Derp. This video is very important and will age very well. In fact, moments ago I just posted a Patreon exclusive video roasting some incredibly embarrassing expert forecasts for EV adoption in the United States all the way out till 2050. Please make sure if you watch that video, link in description if you'd like to join Patreon, that you are not drinking liquids or eating food while watching, as you may choke and or laugh yourself to death. I'm not joking. In this video, Adam Dorr of RethinkX is going to be running through some predictions, some discussion, and some overall commentary around disruptive innovation, S-curve adoption, and why practically every so-called expert is so embarrassingly wrong that I personally believe they should all immediately resign in disgrace. Of course they won't. So the best that I can do is try to broadcast this message to a wider audience, and hopefully you guys and girls can do the same. If you think you know somebody that might want to hear this, it's an important message, especially if they're employed by a legacy automotive company. I highly recommend sharing it, and as always, there's a link in the description to the full source video. This is really important. Most of my videos, take it or leave it. This one really matters, so please stick around, especially if you own Tesla stock.
Hi everyone, Adam from RethinkX here. Thanks for joining me. In today's video, we're going to talk about what disruption is and the data that show disruptions are imminent in 4 of the foundational sectors of the global economy simultaneously: energy, transportation, food, and labor. So let's dive right in. Disruptions happen when new technology emerges that offers the same or better capability as an older technology at a fraction of the cost. And as a result, the new technology overwhelmingly outperforms and therefore outcompetes the older one.
But don't worry guys, the graphic on screen now showing the incredible, seismic, and extremely rapid disruption of film cameras once digital cameras hit the scene, this has nothing at all to do with electric vehicles and internal combustion engine vehicles. Totally irrelevant. I don't even know why they're showing this right now.
This is why we say the disruptions are driven by economics. Simple, straightforward economic logic pulls market demand away from the old technology.
In unrelated matters, have you guys heard some obnoxious twat on the internet with 3 first names describe electric vehicles as an economic inevitability? The disruption of the internal combustion engine by electric vehicles as economically inevitable? No, neither have I. Moving on.
Because the new technology offers a massive savings of money, time, energy, materials, or unwanted side effects. Now, our team at RethinkX has documented over 100 disruptions throughout history, and they all follow the same pattern. A new technology emerges, and as cumulative production grows, its costs improve, following an exponential decay function. This is sometimes called Wright's law, after Theodore Wright described the pattern in 1936. And because production itself tends to grow exponentially at first, those costs also decline consistently over time. And that means cost improvements are predictable.
Now, people often refer to my YouTube persona, or me if they don't realize it's a persona, as extremely obnoxious, which is true. This is my best effort at providing an antidote to the sheer brain damage The total incompetence, the idiocy, the drivel being vomited from the mouths of so-called experts, including stock analysts, automotive industry experts, folks in the finance media, and worst of all, the expert forecasting agencies. As Adam rightly points out, these technological disruptions follow a predictable pattern. Cost declines are predictable. Now, I don't want to labor the point, but we must understand, if something is predictable and consistent, wait for it, we can use this information from historical examples of something similar happening to predict what will occur to a new disruptive technology. This information is not new, and this is why I have so relentlessly roasted so-called experts, especially the CEOs of legacy automotive companies. This isn't special secret information that's only available to a select few. Anyone within any legacy automotive company could have taken the time to look at the data and to understand disruption. If they had, they would have been moving at lightning speed toward electric vehicles about 15 years ago. But alas, they did nothing. As a result, almost every legacy automotive company today will go bankrupt this decade, and they did it to themselves. If your job is to lead a company and the company dies under your watch, you deserve to be relentlessly ridiculed and roasted. Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of jobs are going to disappear as a result of the incompetence of automotive CEOs over the last 15 years? Exactly. At one point, I really want to stress, I'll get back to Adam in a moment, the speed of this disruption over the next 5 to 7 years. Electric vehicles are going to go from a fraction of the overall vehicle market to practically the entire new vehicle market. And hardly anyone on the planet sees this as likely, let alone inevitable. There is a huge disconnect. And in unrelated matters, credit rating agencies are extremely competent, and if you don't believe me, just check out their ratings for legacy automotive manufacturers right now, practically all of which are considered investment grade. These same companies will be going bankrupt later this decade, so yeah, there's that.
Now, conventional analyses often make linear forecasts for technology adoption, but disruptions are not linear. Adoption almost always follows an S-shaped curve, the first phase of which is exponential. Once a new technology reaches about 5% of market share, disruption takes off, and it captures the entire market within 15 years or so. We've seen this same pattern again and again for technologies as different as fabric dyes are from digital cameras.
But don't worry, this time is different. How do I know? Well, because the experts are forecasting linear growth for EVs rather than the exact same pattern we've seen with all of these other various disruptive technologies. So everything's going to be fine, especially if you own stock in legacy automotive companies or happen to be employed by one.
Disruptions are non-linear because they're driven by feedback loops. So, as the cost and capability of a new technology improves, demand for it grows. More demand attracts more investment, which in turn expands supply. And as supply increases, the industry gains experience and economies of scale, which loops back to lower the costs and improve capabilities even further in a virtuous cycle. And as the new technology becomes cheaper and more capable, public and government attitudes shift from resistance to support, which only accelerates the cycle. Now, at the same time the new technology is growing, it's stealing demand away from older technologies. So, the older technologies experience a mirror version of all of those feedback loops. Less demand means less revenue, narrower margins, less profit, less support from public and governments, less investment, shrinking supply, higher costs. This vicious cycle sends disrupted industries into a death spiral.
But don't worry, like I said, this definitely won't happen with electric vehicles disrupting internal combustion engine vehicles, and therefore the internal combustion engine manufacturers who are hoping and relying upon profits from their soon-to-be unprofitable ICE vehicles in a death spiral to fund their new electric vehicle business will be totally fine, and Adam's obviously wrong and RethinkX don't know what they're talking about. And if you disagree with me, you may have a brain. Now, I do recommend, please take a moment on screen now, just pause and let this sink in. This is so right. This is a virtuous cycle in one direction for the disruptive technology and a death spiral in the opposite direction. I've covered this before, but it's really important to understand. Legacy automotive manufacturers today, run by people who between them don't have a single brain cell, seem to be under the impression, most of them, I mean, just look at the public goals when you hear a legacy automotive company explaining what percent of their vehicles sold at a future date will be electric. Some of the more aggressive companies are expecting less than half their vehicles sold at the end of this decade to be electric. They're still expecting to be making massive profits on their internal combustion engine vehicle sales at the end of this decade. And many of them are dependent on those profits to fund their very slow progress and transition toward electric vehicles. As I've said, and as will happen, and I say this with absolute confidence, we are already seeing ICE vehicle sales start their accelerating collapse. As ICE vehicle sales collapse, legacy automotive manufacturers will see this death spiral happen in real time. There will be less public acceptance. The cost to produce these will become higher. The profit margins will become thinner and then eventually go negative. They experience reversing economies of scale. They'll make less money, less profit, less revenue on these things, way less than they're expecting and counting on. There's going to be a collapse in demand, a collapse in supply, a collapse in profits, then they go negative. At the same time, EV sales and demand going through the roof. The plan that literally every legacy automotive manufacturer has today is to milk profits from their ICE business over the next decade and use those profits to fund a very slow and gradual transition to EVs. If you can't read between the lines, they're all unequivocally fucked. It's already too late. They should have figured this out 15 years ago and the penny still hasn't dropped. The brain damage is real.
Now together, the growth of the new and the collapse of the old make what we call a disruption X curve. Or, as we say at RethinkX, X marks disruption. So, how do we know disruptions are coming in energy, transportation, food, and labor? Well, it's because we see the same pattern repeating itself with new technologies in each of those domains. So let's look at the data. In energy, solar photovoltaics, wind turbines, and electrochemical batteries are following textbook cost curves.
This is far and away the most important part of this presentation, so please make sure you're paying attention for the next minute or two. Rewind if you have to. It's very important.
For solar, costs have decreased over 80% since 2010 and are still falling. Now, the consistency is easier to see when the same data are shown on a logarithmic plot. And it's this consistency that makes the trajectory predictable. For wind, costs have fallen almost 50% since 2010. And it's the same story. The declines have been consistent and predictable. For batteries, it's even more spectacular, with costs falling over 90% since 2010. Consistent and predictable. It took a long time, but when those costs finally approached parity with older energy technologies several years ago, the disruption took off, exactly as Tony Seba predicted it would.
Solar improved by 82% in costs in the 2010s. Some folks said that that was unpredictable. In 2010, I wrote an article, an op-ed in the San Francisco Chronicle that said exactly that I expected solar costs to drop 80 to 90% over the next decade. So the cost curves, again, are like gravity. These things can be predicted.
How rude. Did you hear Tony just said these things can be predicted? If that's true, then Tony has basically just said that every legacy automotive CEO is a brain-dead moron. All the so-called experts projecting linear growth in EVs, solar, batteries, whatever, is a moron. Most of the analysts covering the automotive industry are also morons. And practically everyone in the mainstream finance media are also morons. Now, just to be clear, if you don't know something, that does not make you a moron. But if you are paid to know something and you're very wrong about this, and it's something that's very obvious and clear and available to know, and you don't know that, in fact, you don't just not know that, but you say things that are so far removed from reality that it's embarrassing, then I do believe you are, in fact, a moron. I mean, none of this was predictable and it's totally not their fault. And who could have seen this coming? And by the way, this is what you're going to hear from all the legacy automotive manufacturers as the ship starts sinking more rapidly throughout the next few years. We're very surprised by how much demand there is for EVs. We're very surprised by EV sales. We're very surprised by consumer sentiment. We're very surprised the costs have come down. Exactly. But it's not their fault because they're not morons. This was entirely unpredictable, right? And again, I know a lot of people listen audio only to these videos. Please pay attention to the graphics on screen now. It's very important so that you guys visually can see what's happening.
We're now racing up the adoption S-curve. And there's every reason to think the energy disruption will follow the same pattern we've seen so many times before throughout history. And that means fossil fuels are doomed to be disrupted in the energy sector within the next 15 years or so. No different than oil lanterns or horses or typewriters or film cameras were doomed when cheaper, better alternatives outcompeted them. In transportation, it's the same pattern. Adoption of EVs is growing explosively.
All right, stop right there, Adam. I just need to point something out that's very important. If Tesla doesn't begin advertising right here, they're not going to be able to sell more electric vehicles because, as we can see here, it's not like the costs are predictably declining, and as costs predictably decline, we see an acceleration in affordability, meaning more people can buy electric vehicles, which has been what's happening previously, because this right here is the point where affordable, compelling products that are disruptive and superior to the old technology in every possible way won't be good enough to continue selling more, because it's not like producing more and the cost coming down, meaning more people can afford them, and they're way better means more people will buy them. And anyone with half a brain can obviously see that, if Tesla isn't advertising right now, then that's not going to happen. That's going to happen. Therefore, Tesla needs to advertise, because advertising is how you convince people to buy a much better, much cheaper, and increasingly more affordable technology over time. Therefore, Tesla should advertise. That's the only way they can keep selling more electric vehicles.
And again, we see that Tony Seba's predictions were correct.
The cost curve in clean disruption predicted was that the market would offer a 200+ mile electric vehicle by 2025 for about $10,000. The idea that there would be an electric vehicle that was $10,000 ever, right? A tenth of the cost of Tesla Model S at the time, was just considered insane. And guess what? Geely announced it. Geely announced a new SUV, 200 mile, precisely as I predicted, for less than $10,000. Cost curves are like gravity.
In labor, artificial intelligence and automation look to be following the same pattern of disruption too. The cost of training and running AI models is falling as computing gets cheaper and the field continues to innovate.
Just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everybody once again that Tesla is just a car company. They don't have any capabilities in artificial intelligence. There's no such thing as a dojo chip. They don't have a fleet of autonomous robo-taxis in the works that's collecting data, training via neural networks, and that's not AI, and therefore Tesla's just a car company. You should ignore FSD, you should ignore their progress, you should ignore their unassailable data lead. And if anyone tells you differently, they're obviously just being paid by Tesla and or they're an Elon D-rider.
We still need more data before we can make concrete predictions about the timeline. But all signs in the data now point to an explosion of labor automation across dozens of industries starting before 2030. And one of the most impactful AI applications will be autonomous or self-driving vehicles. Now, these will hugely accelerate the transportation disruption as well. And that raises the more general point that the four disruptions are connected, and they're therefore going to accelerate one another. The disruption of energy and labor will make everything cheaper. And that's because energy and labor are part of every supply chain of every product and service. They are inputs into everything else.
Energy and labor, both massive disruptions underway. It's a shame there aren't any companies out there going after these two gigantic opportunities, because if there were, they'd be going after tens of trillions of dollars of potential market cap. That'd be a pretty large opportunity considering the world's largest companies today. Maybe if you're lucky, $2 trillion or so. Unfortunately, no companies like that exist, so that's why all my money's just sitting in cash. And I haven't bought any stocks for years because I can't find any opportunities that are that big. Does anyone know any companies like that? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to buy their stock, all of it.
By massively increasing prosperity, the disruptions, especially of energy and labor, will make solving environmental problems affordable everywhere. Okay, so the main takeaway from all of this is that once you understand technology and disruption, it quickly becomes clear why we are so much closer to being able to solve our greatest environmental challenges than many of us imagine. And as I've said before, it's not about having an optimistic attitude. It's the data that tell us that clean technologies will disrupt energy, transportation, food, and labor. And fast. Not 50 or 100 years from now, but over just the next 15 years or so. And that's why there has never been greater reason to be optimistic about the future of the environment.
So just to recap, as we can see, there's serious issues with EV demand now, and if Tesla doesn't advertise soon, they're going to go bankrupt. Also, legacy automotive manufacturers will definitely be fine, especially those companies who still expect at least half of their vehicle sales at the end of this decade won't be electric. They're definitely not late to the race. In fact, they're definitely not about 15 years too late. They're definitely not all going bankrupt this decade. And if you disagree with me, you may be able to interpret data. By the way, on a serious note, I highly recommend Adam's book, Brighter. I read it a few weeks ago. It's excellent. It's a great book, great summary, full of hope, optimism, and facts, which don't care about your feelings. And by the way, just a quick caveat, if you do search for the book, Adam's surname, Dorr, is D-O-R-R, not D-O-O-R. Easy mistake to make, but I do recommend read the book. It's great. Oh, and I almost forgot. Those folks who currently own legacy automotive stocks are definitely going to be fine, and the credit ratings agencies who don't see legacy automotive manufacturers blowing up this decade are definitely right, and you should definitely trust them because they're not going to be wrong. Also, Tesla is just a car company. Don't forget, I posted an exclusive Patreon video earlier today, which includes some truly absurd predictions about EV adoption in the US out to 2050. Again, make sure you're not drinking or eating anything when you watch that, otherwise you'll probably choke. So fair warning, it's pretty embarrassing. Check the links in the pinned comment to join Patreon, and by the way, if you'd like to subscribe over on Twitter, I'm also posting exclusive video content there. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to athleticgreens.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. It certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1 is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, This is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my god, Snake Oil Salmon's sold out. Oh my god, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to athleticgreens.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment, see you over on Twitter and or Patreon, and don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.